All right, so we're back. All right, Anthony Black channel. Let's get into it. Trump has officially got his butt kicked by Iran, and these are the official terms of the agreement to end the Iran war.
Senior U.S. officials finally released the terms that make up the Memorandum of Understanding between the U.S. and Iran. The draft begins with a provision that the U.S. and Iran and their allies will, quote, declare the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts and ensure the, quote, territorial integrity and sovereignty of Lebanon. The U.S. will also fully end its naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz within 30 days, and Iran will restore traffic to pre-war levels. In addition, Iran will allow commercial ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz with no charge for 60 days. Then Iran and Oman will decide future administration of the strait. When it comes to financial relief for Iran, regional partners will develop $1 billion and Economic Development Fund for Iran. On nuclear weapons, Iran would agree not to procure them and adhere to a minimum standard for
Bibi Netanyahu happens to be a good man, gets a little excited. Bibi Netanyahu happens to be a good man, gets a little excited sometimes. He's been an amazing prime minister. We have a little dispute over Lebanon. I say, you can do a little softer touch, Bibi. You don't have to knock down a building every time somebody walks into it that's from Hezbollah. But it's been an amazing partnership. But he will say, we're the big partner and he's the very small partner, and that's true.
Trump affirms that.
No, he's not. It's the other way around. He's the big partner. You're the little partner. They have free health care. They have free health insurance. We don't have that.
Nuclear talks would begin immediately and was asked about Iran's claim that their nuclear program is civilian in nature and if that would be acceptable going forward.
Well, I've said to them always, I say, look, you have probably the third largest oil reserves in the world. What the hell do you need nuclear for? You need nuclear for some electricity. So I've always felt that way. So we're pretty tough in that. You know, it is a little hard, though, when you say that somebody wants other people have it, other adjoining have it, and you're not letting them have it for purposes of electricity and things like that. It's always a little tough. You have to use a little common sense, please.
Meantime, the ceasefire has been shaky since announced on Sunday. A U.S. source tells PBS News that Iran has continued to fire drones at commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz in the last few days, and the U.S. military has shot them down. But the president said that Iran could maintain their ballistic missile program, a major point of criticism from hawks of the 2015-led Iran deal.
That if other countries have them, it's a little bit unfair for them not to have some. A ballistic missile is not the same thing as what we're talking about when we talk nuclear. But if Saudi Arabia and Qatar and they all have some, I would say in relative proportion, I think it's okay. That's what I mean.
While Vice President J.D. Vance has taken on a larger role in negotiating ceasefire and is expected to attend the signing on Friday in Switzerland, the president joked that Vance may take the fall if the deal sours.
Wow, such a leader.
And supported by regional powers, all except one. Will this peace hold? Is Israel the true loser, or will it have the final say? Here is what you need to know. We might not have a perfect image to end this war with two warring leaders shaking hands. Not yet. What was meant to be a Friday signing of an outline agreement, or MOU, happened prematurely and virtually. The delegates meant to meet in Sweden are no longer going, and it's unclear when they will begin the next phase, 60 days of high-stakes nuclear negotiations. For now, though, the Strait of Hormuz is open. On Thursday, 3 Saudi supertankers crossed, carrying 6 million barrels of oil the world desperately needs. Iran says the strait will remain toll-free throughout the talks, but is to be coordinated with the newly established Persian Gulf Strait Authority. The U.S. lifted its own blockade and says its forces will remain until negotiations are over. The signs of peace are, but the mistrust runs deep. Iran's lead negotiator Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf issued a warning to the U.S. if it breaks the terms. He wrote they were slapped during
Fair use, by the way, fair use.
the war. If they wish to tread that path again, they will receive an even harder slap. Iran's supreme leader endorsed talks for a final deal while admitting his own skepticism.
اما بدیهی است مذاکرات حضوری که در آینده برقرار خواهد شد به معنای پذیرش نظر دشمن خواهد بود.
Many in Iran will read carefully into these words, written by a man whose father and family were killed, who shares the grief of those mourning more than 3,400 killed by U.S. and Israeli attacks, whose country will now begin the slow journey to rebuild. And in that mistrust, Israel has room to maneuver.
We didn't have issues when if only Trump had stuck with Obama's nuclear deal. Now there's going to be a poll tax for any ship to pass through the Hormuz. Okay, you're going to be costing people money to get this oil, and people are cheering and trying to say that Trump won. He didn't win. I want to hear about those American soldiers who lost their lives and their bodies are still in Germany. I want to hear about the casualties. How many U.S. soldiers died in this war? I want to know.
Prime Minister Netanyahu faces tremendous pressure and national elections in October that could strip him of power. He's being attacked by his opponents on the left and undermined by his political partners on the far right. They believe the U.S.-Iran deal sidelined Israel, forced its retreat in Lebanon, and emboldened its adversaries, Iran, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. Tonight, Israeli forces launched another wave of airstrikes across the south after 4 of its soldiers were killed in a Hezbollah ambush. More than 3,900 people have been killed in Lebanon, and more than 1 million are still displaced. The MOU between the U.S. and Iran.
Let's talk about that $25 billion that Trump is going to cough up to Iran.
Delivering $25 billion to Iran. Based on what I'm able to confirm of their phase 1, the deal is permanent ceasefire, including Lebanon. They said it's nothing like on the. They said it's nothing like on the current deal right now. The $300 billion reconstruction plan. That is only mentioned on the Iran side. Iran as the exclusive authority over the traffic. That is also something we can't 100%, we're not 100% clear because only Iran side was able to confirm this. The US side has not. But we will see what happens. That's the deal so far. $1 billion fund is only $1 billion. When you talk about billions of dollars, they've had much more than $1 trillion worth of damage done. They got a long way. They'll be 15 to 20 years to rebuild what they have right now. So they have to behave themselves. If they again, hit again, because we can do it very easily. It's a long way for them to build back their anti-aircraft stuff. It's going to take, and the other thing I want to thank China. I was with him, and he stayed neutral, totally neutral, and I appreciate it. And I want to thank Vladimir Putin. He was very neutral. They could have made it much more difficult for us. And I want to say it. Somebody would say, "Oh, that's terrible. He's thanking President Xi of China." Well, let me tell you, I had a long talk with him. They have shoulder weapons to knock down airplanes. That the real deal, but they're accurate. They're fairly accurate. I said I would really appreciate you to thank them because they made it a lot better.
Can you explain, though, what the difference is between giving Iran U.S. dollars and unfreezing U.S. dollars for
Well,
you?
the unfreezing is an easy one to answer. We have taken a lot of their money, and we have their money. At a certain point in time, I guess we're going to have to give it back. If we didn't give it back, nobody would ever invest in the dollar again. If you took their money, because I thought about it, I'm not the most perfect person. I said to Scott, why do we keep their money? What the hell are we giving it back to them? But people from lots of nations, some nations we don't agree with, they have their money, the dollar's become very strong under me. And we don't want a little conflict.
once said in January of 2020, Iran never won a war, but never lost a negotiation. That wise man.
Who said that?
Donald Trump.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
So how do you go back to the United States and convince a skeptical American public that this deal
Well,
is a
look,
win?
here they lost militarily, okay? It's very tough because I know that no matter what, if they
It's amazing how people could just try to listen to this con man over and over again and not think that this man is selling them a just lies, utter lies. We lost the war, and now Trump is unfreezing $25 billion. Soldiers have died for a war that didn't have to happen.
This is catastrophic. There's a catastrophic development coming out of the White House today that nobody is really covering in the correct way. Trump is currently in the Oval Office melting down over this, and this time it is not the reflecting pool that Trump spent millions of dollars renovating only to watch it turn green, peel apart at the seams, kill some ducks, and now have to be redrained as the National Guard watches over and essentially arrests or detains anybody who even touches the pool. I mean, it is a crazy sight to see, but that is not the disaster that I want to talk about today. We'll touch on that in just a few minutes, but the real disaster is the Iran war. Today is the day that we have officially lost the Iran war and allowed Iran to rebuild even bigger and better than before. We just learned that the United States is suspending all sanctions, allowing foreign countries. This will immediately make Iran billions of dollars, which they will likely spend rebuilding their weapons programs, their proxies, rebuilding potentially their nuclear program.
You can't blame them either. You can't blame them. The way he disrespected them, you cannot blame him. I'm going to ready lower your electricity price by 50% within the first 12 months. That's okay. That's been covered. You can't blame the Iranian people. Now we're going to work on our nuclear program because we don't trust you, because you disrespected us. They have every right to protect themselves.
All of this will help Iran rebuild what we destroyed in the war. Listen, I'm not somebody who is a war hawk and who wants the United States to be in war. We need to find an off-ramp immediately. But Trump can't spend 3 to 4 claiming we've destroyed their military, this base, and ruined all of their missiles, and then just essentially the money or reopen the revenue stream for them to rebuild once again. To make matters even worse, he is currently in the Oval Office right now, melting down over this. A reporter just asked him if Iran has leverage over us, and Trump snapped and said, "What a dumb question." But I just want to give you guys the reality of it. Republicans get mad when I say this. They call me anti-America, but I say this because I love America. The fact of the matter is, we are currently losing this war, and Iran does have leverage over us. When Trump signals that he is this desperate to get a deal, it allows Iran to essentially string us along and just demand smaller concessions that all add up to a very favorable package to them. For example, they said they were going to reopen the strait if Israel removed troops from southern Lebanon. Now, Iran knows Israel's not going to do that. Iran knows for a fact Israel is not going to do that. So they put that poison pill in the memorandum, and then the memorandum immediately gets broken.
The thing is like, it's amazing how when you want the best for your country, people say you hate it. And it's usually idiotic white supremacists who are like that. You hate America when you talk about against things like what our God and Savior Donald Trump is trying to do. Okay, this is why Trump, he loves the poorly educated, because he will do anything he says because they are ignorant just like him and they are racist like him. They don't care if he's a pedophile. They don't care if it's allegedly that he molested his own daughter. They don't care. They don't care if the country goes out in flames, as long as they get to be racist and at one point probably be able to own black people again. That's it. They don't even care about America. If they did, they would be on Trump's throat about the economy, the gas prices, the food prices, this war in Iran that nobody asked for. You lied and said when you said no new wars. You lied about revealing the unredacted Epstein files. You lied about that. You even tried to block it. People who demand that care about America. You care about children, the next generation that's coming up. So they won't get abused. So no children get abused or eaten. You stand up against stuff like that. You care about America. But you want to shame people for wanting to call out and want, regardless if they're Republican or Democrat. No, you hate America. Nobody else. You don't have to, but I'll tell you this, though. What party is the party that will protect you if your boss wants to sexually harass you? Okay? First offender. What party is the party that protects if you have to have an emergency abortion due to a pregnancy complication? What party will give you that? Yeah, I thought that would be the Democratic Party. You have to vote what's in your best interest. If you are not a rich white person, you have to vote Democrat. You don't have to vote, but if you're going to vote, you're going to might as well grit your teeth and vote Democrat, because that is where your interests lie, where your best interest is supported. But they do LGBT. Yeah, I know that. I'm not comfortable with LGBT. But that's where my civil rights are protected as a minority. That's where unions are. Okay? Elon Musk wants to break up unions. Republicans hate unions. Okay? People don't like to think. That's why Trump is right when it comes to the poorly educated. Because you're poorly educated, you're going to think that America is a Christian nation. You're going to think the Republican Party is for God when they're child molesters on that side too. Not just the Democrats. Got a whole bunch of people saying exposed on mainstream media. You had a whole bunch of Republican senators getting caught in this stuff. It's both sides. A lot of you are on this, spectrum of like, it's a sports team. But both sides, it's a uniparty that hates children and hates family. I agree. Stop giving our tax money to the people of Iran. But unfortunately, you don't have control over that. I'm talking about first offense. You're not listening. You're not listening. Your best interests. Let me tell you a story about this Republican MAGA supporter, Trump supporter. Her name was Kat. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman, right? All about Trump, Trump this, Trump that. But guess what happened to her? She had an ectopic pregnancy in Florida. And guess what? In Florida, therefore Trump's policies. If she didn't get that ectopic pregnancy, she can never have children again. It was also life-threatening. Do you think she just rolled over and accepted Trump's policy? No, she got on the phone with Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis wouldn't help her. Guess what? She pulled some strings and got that ectopic pregnancy. Wouldn't you know? Once again, You have to go with your best, where your interests are suited, especially as a woman who had an abortion. Now you want to attack my audio because I just made you look stupid on here. Now you want to attack the audio. Oh, you only got 3 views because you sound like an idiot now, and I made you look like an idiot because I proved my point. Democrats suck, Republicans suck. But you have to go with your best interests if you're going to vote. And that will be the Democrat Party if you're not rich and white. Rich and white. And I just gave you a clear example of a woman, Republican, MAGA, who had to make a choice. Do I stand with Trump and die with this ectopic pregnancy, or do I get this thing handled so I... Okay, first offender? Poorly educated. You vote for the party that has babies, abort babies? There are a lot of Republicans, just like Kat. Look her up, Kat Comic. I think that's her last name. And they've had abortions. You know how many Republicans have mistresses and got their mistress pregnant, and they go off and have an abortion? You're delusional if you think that's not happening.
For them, after months of war and difficult discussions mediated by the Pakistanis, and after that by the Qataris along with the Pakistanis, they think that they haven't been forced. Nobody has forced them to concede or to sign this agreement. It was the Americans who were to the Iranian rhetoric here, were in desperate need for that agreement to be signed. So now they think it has come because their demands have been met. The blockade on the Strait of Hormuz will be lifted. The Iranian assets will be released. That's according to them as well. And also Iran will maintain its nuclear stockpiles of enriched uranium in the future. Maybe there will be a compromise on that. And everything else in the memorandum of understanding or in the next 60 days of talks, according to them, is giving some bright prospects for Iran after so much suffering, many decades of sanctions. Those sanctions are going to be eventually released. They believe that Iran was in a much worse situation before the beginning of this war, and it will be in a much better situation after the signing of this peace agreement, and that it has sent a strong message to the world that those
sent a strong message that our president is a buffoon and we look like we have on our face. But many of you will think he's playing 4D chips. Oh, he knows what he's doing. Yeah, he the art of the deal. You're trusting a man that has multiple bankruptcies. Every business refuses to pay his workers, refuses to pay his contractors. A man was a snake in the business world. You trust this man. Okay. Breaking news. Iran fought the nuclear-powered superpower USA and nuclear-powered Israel for 39 days, and with their missiles, drones, and Strait of Hormuz, chokehold wins the war. Let's get into it. Scott Ritter, folks. Fair use.
Have imagined if the goal of Khamenei was to get Iranians in the street. Today morning has gone for the Iranian government, and the more Iran that support people about the impact of the strategic bombing campaign against Germany during the Second World War. It didn't break the will of the Germans. It actually made the Germans more resistant and more resilient and more effective in their production.
Please don't talk to me about complaining when you guys are on social media, complaining that you lost your farms, okay? That you can't find workers because all the workers have left the farms. You know, those illegal aliens that you wanted out of the country, you know, the ones that work your farms? Yeah. Don't talk to me about complaining and how you guys complaining that your wives have left you. That's right. You voted for Trump and your wives left you. Don't talk to me about complaining. Don't talk to me about that. You wanted to get your illegals out of here. But the illegals are practically the backbone of the American economy. That's something. Understood that about you guys. Majority of the Republicans are broke. You are broke. And you cut your nose to spite your face. For a man that never struggled in his life, he's had a golden toilet. A golden toilet. And you fight tooth and nail for this man. Many of you have only like 2 or 3 teeth in your mouth. And you're fighting for people who got 8 or 9 yachts. I'll say it again. Most of you got 3 or 4 teeth in your mouth. And you're fighting for people who got 9 yachts. And they don't give a damn about you. Your roads are crappy. Your schools are terrible. But you vote for a man because he's white just like you and racist just like you, but doesn't give a damn about you. And you vote for a pedophile. Interesting. I'm going to talk about complaining. You vote for this man and you guys are broke. He doesn't care about you. That big, beautiful bill is going to put so many of you either in the grave, street, because you'll have to pay those medical bills out of pocket. That's something. And I've seen videos of Trump supporters, single file, line up for these little medic vans in their towns. That's how poor some of you all are. You can't even go to the hospital. You guys have oxygen tanks, with these tweezers, these tubes in your nostrils. MAGA. All right? And you're suffering, literally voting for your own demise. I do not like Joe Biden. I do not like him. He's a Nazi supporter, just like Trump. But unfortunately, where are the unions at? Where's the civil rights at? Where's your protections as a minority at? If your boss wants to try and say something slick and something that's perverted and sexually gross, what puts the fear of God in him? Oh, that's right. Those protections, those legal protections that protect women. Right. That's on the liberal side, unfortunately. So that would mean you'd have to vote Democrat if you're going to vote. Then some of you are complaining about it later. Just a couple of months of Trump being in office, on YouTube, the search, how do I change my vote, lit up like a Christmas tree. That's when a lot of you guys had some clarity. A lot of you just want to stay stuck in the sauce.
Undeclared wars.
This and instead, what we've done is empower the Iranian regime more than one could ever have imagined. If the goal of killing Ali Khamenei was to get Iranians in the street, we succeeded. Millions of Iranians are in the street today mourning his loss. There's never been more support in Iran for the Iranian government, and the more we bomb Iran, the stronger that support gets. Remind people about the impact of the strategic bombing campaign against Germany during the Second World War. It didn't break the will of the Germans. It actually made the Germans more resistant and more resilient and more effective in their production. Actually, the production of German fighters increased under bombing because they knew and better ways to do this. The same is true with the Iranians. The Iranians have been preparing for this conflict for over 20 years, since 2005, when they first threatened them with an existential war. And the preparations are played out. Iran, there is no escalatory ladder here. They've gone straight for the jugular. They are destroying the American military infrastructure in the Middle East. They are destroying the American diplomatic infrastructure in the Middle East. They are, punishing Israel in ways that Israel could not imagined. They're punishing Gulf Arab nations. They have shut down the Strait of Hormuz for the first time. Qatar, the world's major natural gas producer, has declared force majeure. They're now a pipeline that bypasses the Strait of Hormuz. A barrel of energy will transit the Persian Gulf, which means this is the end of the global economy if this continues. And so this is victory for Iran. Iran is winning this war. Let there be no doubt about that. The buildings that are being bombed by the United States and Israel are empty buildings. As I said, Iran has been preparing for this conflict. And if you think for a second that Iran has left critical manufacturing capacity inside a building to be bombed by the United States and Israel, then you don't understand the fact of what I just said. Iran has been preparing for this conflict for 20 years. The material inside these buildings have been moved out and hidden in places where we can't reach.
So instead of the unconditional surrender, which President Trump many times demanded, the Iranians emerged from a confrontation with the world's most powerful.
I thought we were winning this war. I thought we were spanking Iran when Iran has been bending us over.
Military, not having just survived, but basically celebrating.
Well, I think that's true. There are a couple of things, though, that, first of all, we haven't seen the leaks yet. The leaks that are going to come out of various sources inside and outside of the White House, who will claim to have been present when this dramatic reversal of fortune occurred.
Right.
And Donald Trump suddenly decided, whoops, I'm changing my mind. And at that point, we'll find out perhaps what really drove the decision making. But I think we have to say, I think President Trump was presented with certain undeniable facts. The war with Iran was doing enormous damage to the world as well as to us. Cut off 20% of the global supply of liquid manufacturing were miserable. Trade also halted the export of roughly 30% of the global supply of ammonia-based nitrogen fertilizer. Iranian strikes halted the production of 30% of the global supply of helium used in making semiconductors and medical imaging devices. I mean, we could go on and on and on. But I think somebody finally reached you and said, look, boss, this is playing hell with the whole world. We need to get out of this.
We need that fertilizer for our farms. So you MAGAs that are for this and your farmers, I don't know what you were thinking. A lot, just like when you guys voted like, yeah, get the illegals out, not understanding that you need these illegals to work your farms, because you're definitely not going to pay Americans to work your farms, because Americans aren't the same pay that you pay illegals. And the semiconductors needed for medical equipment in hospitals, many of you, you need the hospitals. Some of you are really sick. So all across the board, it's just like Trump is right about you guys. And I'm starting to believe that article that was saying that back in the day, before he was president, he said, if I wanted to get into politics and if I wanted to support the political party, it would be the Republicans, because they are dumb. And look where we are now.
We need to get out of this as soon as possible. This is hurting all of our friends. We're not profiting from this. We're not getting anywhere. And oh, by the way, Europe probably is popular as Attila the Hun right now around most of the world and inside the United States.
I think he was probably also warned, had been released in order to suppress the price of gasoline, even though it doubled in the past 2 months. We're dangerously low, and we only had about another 2.5 to 3 weeks of these reserves left.
Oh, I think that had an impact. There's no doubt about it.
This deal was a deal which reflected Iran's victory on the battlefield, 39 days of war. It's not just that Iran survived the war. It is that they hit back 24 hours a day at the Israeli regime, at U.S. bases, and whenever its infrastructure was targeted, it would strike at U.S. assets or U.S. allies were complicit in the war. Then when Trump initiated the siege campaign to starve Iran, and we saw senators go on television gloating about how Iranians had no food to eat, which was not true, but in any case, it caused difficulty.
Mind you, Trump was starving our soldiers by not feeding them properly. And when those soldiers' families tried to send care packages, the military blocked it. Just to show you that type of president we have.
Humiliation of the United States is now complete. Look at this headline. Iran literally didn't wait till the week was out to announce, oh, we're charging for that strait. They've announced plans to introduce a system of maritime fees in the Strait of Hormuz in 2 months after the 60-day period of negotiation. Tehran claimed a historic victory over the U.S. and said the strait was under its control. In other words, we are never going back to what we had before. I want to try to explain this in the simplest terms possible. Imagine you're a homeowner and you live next to another homeowner for a very long time, and you two hate each other. But your neighbor has one that he lets you use just because he always has, and it's an easement on his property that you use to get out of the start with. You can't use that easement anymore. If you do, I'm gonna shoot you. So now you find yourself in an all-out war with your neighbor, but also the thing you use to get all of your supplies into your house, your medicine, your food, everything is cut off to you. So you're really suffering. You can't work, you're getting sick, you're hungry. So even though your neighbor hasn't given you anything you initially wanted, you decided, we gotta stop this, let's bury the hatchet. And the neighbor says, hey, fine, but you're never getting that easement for free again, so give me the money. So the whole long drawn-out fight you just had with your neighbor accomplished nothing, destroyed a lot of things, and now you're paying for something you used to get for free.
Where are we winning here? I just want to know, MAGA supporters, tell me how we're winning here. I want to know how we're winning. We didn't need this war. We needed the Strait of Hormuz for the farms, the fertilizer, semiconductors. How are we winning now? That now we have to be charged to get those resources now. Probably means that the fertilizer and these semiconductors the price will be bumped up as well. I want to know how we're winning here. Please tell me.
Right here. The president keeps threatening Iran, and it helps no one. All they can, and if you don't, I'm going to set fire. It would be like if you were offering to buy a house, and you told the seller, here's my offer. You have 24 hours to accept it. And if you don't, I'm going to set fire to your house. Yeah, that's right. I'm threatening you. Either you say yes to my deal or I burn it down. Would you want to sell to that knucklehead? Would you be like, oh, okay, I better sell to you? This is what's going on right here. The president keeps threatening Iran.
You can't threaten Iran with charging tolls in the strait when you don't own the Strait of Hormuz. This is the president that you elected, who's going to make everything expensive. Things are now. Don't tell me gas prices are low. That's a lie. All right? We are going to have a lot of hard times. God forbid the power grid goes out. That's when things really going to hit the fan. And Trump has talked about that. We don't know when he's going to start doing nonsense with the power grid. I do believe Trump has his orders to do this nonsense. I believe he's being bullied to do this. That's what I believe. His job is to wreck this economy. That is what he's supposed to do.
And today, more information came out about it. We're going to take a look at it for you and try to decipher what the Hormuz is going on. Now, you may know that the United States and Iran signed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding. This is it right here. One of the most interesting things I got to say about this Memorandum of Understanding is that they signed it electronically. Really, seriously. They couldn't even get together in the same room and sign it. They had to do it electronically. Now, every time I ever do anything electronically, there's there's some sort of capture or some sort of authentication. I wonder if there was one for this. I would assume it's this right here. I love this one. Please identify the squares that represent Iran. Oh, so one to go through the signature, but they did sign it, and they also physically signed it. We saw President Trump signing it in, of all places, Versailles. Versailles. This is, can't be clear. If you're going to sign a document of any kind, don't do it at Versailles. I mean, it's got a bad history for signing things. Just, again, historian and me, just a little bit about that. All right, let's break this down for you and talk about what the Hormuz is happening in the Strait. If you're new to the channel, hey, signed late Wednesday, had started ticking. He downplayed concerns Iran could eventually impose tolls on traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, a move that was a critical transport choke point, widely considered international waters, not widely considered, it is international waters, into a moneymaker for Tehran. Quote, well, first of all, we all believe international waterways should be free of tolls, he said, noting that the countries in the region, quote, together we'll figure out a proper security framework for the straits in the future, end quote. If the strait is not open, quote, there's not going to be a final deal. All right, so J.D. Vance had a very interesting, I would argue, kind of press conference. He was very comfortable in that setting. He did pretty well, I would argue, in that setting. But what he wants to do is get the Strait of Hormuz back to the pre-war levels here.
That's not happening. Not after the way they were treated. Not after the way Trump treated Iran. Now we're going to talk about Albania residents tear down government barriers in mass anti-Trump demonstrations and declare their country is owned by the people, not the oligarchy. If you don't know that Ivanka Trump, what's her name? Trump and Jared Kushner, nice little piece of land that could have for themselves, and the people of Albania ain't having it.
Installed by the government on a beach in South Albania, declaring that their land is theirs, not the government's, not the oligarchs, declaring that the country's beaches are the beaches of the people, not of the oligarchy. These are from just protests against Donald Trump, just protests against Jared Kushner, against Ivanka Trump. It is exploding to something much bigger. These protests are now anti-oligarchy, anti-government corruption, anti-the establishment. You have over 1 million people across the country taking the streets, and now they're tearing down physical barriers that prevent these people from having access to their country's beaches. They want to make clear that not only are they opposed to the Trump resort project, but they are opposed to the current government and the way that the government is treating its country's people.
That's what's happening.
The files that have done business with him that are shutting down the Epstein case. Trump has named.
This is Trump. I thought Trump was going to reveal the Epstein files. MAGA, I thought they were going to reveal the Epstein files.
Trump administration is officially shutting down the Epstein case. Trump has named Todd Blanche to be the next Attorney General of the United States. And Todd Blanche said that what the women describe in those files, they're not crimes worthy of investigating. He said, don't expect him to investigate any of these men, to question them, or there to be any indictments. He said the people inside.
You can never tell me Republicans care about family. Don't ever tell me they believe that either when they're doing this. I told you about 38 Republican senators in Oklahoma who are against banning child marriage, right? I told you about that, right? 38 senators, Republican. Okay. Look at you, you coward. You can't even say the racial slur. Say the full racial slur. Can't even do that, Noah. Look at Noah. Everybody look at Noah right here. The coward. You can't even say the full racial slur. You have to put it in some sort of code because you know you're going to get consequences. You white supremacists are such cowards, just like your idol Chud the Builder.
And the files that went to Epstein's Island to party with him, the people who sent emails telling him what kind of girls he liked, what age they wanted them to be, the men inside.
No, you can't say it because you're a coward. That's right, you're a coward. That's why. Chud was at least honest with being a racist. You can't be honest about your racism because you know there's consequences. You can't do that. That's your problem with you low IQ white supremacists. Proud about being racist, but then when you get called out, you start crying. No, you're not, because you can't put the word out. Don't put it backwards, put it forward. Let's see you. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. And then you want to cry when someone calls you racist. You want to cry.
The files that have done business with him, that have exchanged money, none of those men should.
YouTube knows it. Go ahead and do it. Do it, coward. You can't. I don't think he'd be offered a plea deal. I don't. I like these cowards, man. Trump, the only thing good about Trump being president is like he lets these stupid people come out. He lets the stupid come out of people. So you're aware of who's stupid. Racism is a mental illness. I really do think that's what it is. It's a mental illness. To hate somebody by the color of their skin, to want to say, complain that, oh, they're on welfare, when the majority of people are on welfare, want to say they're the ones committing all the crime when the statistics say that it's white people committing most of the crime. White men make up 29% of the population, all right, committing over 70% of the crimes. Majority of the serial killers are white, mass shooters white, serial rapists white, white-collar crime offenders white, child abusers white. Yeah.
Be investigated. He said the investigation is closed. This is the same man who frantically ran down the hall to the Situation Room to figure out how to keep the information in the files regarding Trump from getting out into the public. Why would you have to keep that information private if there's nothing wrong in there? Todd Blanche has no intention of investigating the men in those files because he does not believe that violently assaulting women and children is a crime that should be punished in this country.
And eating. They ate kids. Trump took his two middle fingers and put it up underage girl. And you people are proud. Like I said, it's because he allows you to be a racist. You'll be a poor racist, but he allows you to be racist. You're an unemployed racist, but you'll be racist. You'll probably be eating grass for dinner, but at least you're racist. My.
And it's very obvious that it's not a crime. And we know this because they're not investigating. They've arrested a single man.
No, they're not.
American people, and they should be ashamed of themselves. Sorts of disgusting things in these files, those are the traitors to the American people, and they should be ashamed of themselves. And that's why he gets. I think we've seen a lot of that dribble out. So, yeah, it all matches.
So the tide is slowly turning, but surely turning on Trump. And Don Snorleone does not seem up to the task of stemming the tide. According to Tony Schwartz, Trump, who used to get by on bluster and bluffing, does not have any more rabbits to pull out of the hat. Watch.
What does he do with this situation?
don't think he has the marbles to do anything. I think it's happening to him. And, you know, you just look at a day like today where he goes from one extreme to the other about Iran and whether he's going to bomb it or not. And then he tells the world he is. Why in the world would you do that? And, you know, now he's got the Epstein drama that was created by Maggie Haberman and her colleague. I just think that he lost and really doesn't have not that he was so great about this at any time over the last 10 years, but I think he is without any instincts other than self-preservation.
This is your president. Say what you want about Sleepy Joe. I don't like Sleepy Joe. But Sleepy Joe is not in the office right now. It's Trump. And Trump is proven just to be as much as a pedophile as Joe Biden. And whenever it's come out, but Joe Biden, we don't want to hear about Joe Biden right now. Okay? You want to hear why you guys want to support a pedophile who made a promise of release the unredacted files. Epstein decides to say he's not going to do that. He's going to protect the pedophiles within the files.
What? And you might actually hear the thunder clapping overhead. There is a thunderstorm passing over my studio at this.
What's up, people? This is some good content right here. Share it, make it known. Let everybody know. It's important.
Moment. And that was one heck of a revelation. There was a state law enforcement investigation into Jeffrey Epstein and his alleged crimes at the Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, but the feds shut it down in 2019. Donald Trump's Department of Justice shut it down in 2019. Okay, well, wait a minute. This was reported by CNN, so, you know, maybe there will be an allegation that is fake news. Well, it looks like Donald Trump's Department of Justice in his first term in 2019 shut down a New Mexico state law enforcement investigation of Zorro Ranch and Epstein's crimes.
This is your president.
When he may do this and he may do that, you want to keep the other side off bounds. Nonsense. That's just a justification to try to explain away the fact that he has no strategy. He never has strategy. He's not a strategic thinker. He's a seat of the pants, in the moment guy. Well, let's be thankful that it turned out it was Taco Tuesday. Taco being Trump, always chicken. The pants guy. There is no plan here, and he's painted himself and therefore the world into a corner. Iranians have been very clear. A number of statements from both the theocratic side and the military side along the lines of, we are not going to negotiate when we're being bombed, when the strait is being blockaded, which we regard as equivalent military acts. And we've got new tactics you haven't seen yet. There's also a new report here in the U.S. that the Pentagon assesses that the Iranians have thousands of additional missiles and drones that they can deploy, contrary to Trump's and Pete Hegseth's statements that they've run through their missiles and drones. Apparently, not even close.
It's very hard to reach an agreement. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a very sound analysis of what's going on. He really has the upper hand here. Trump had the opportunity in February to get a better deal than Barack Obama had negotiated through John Kerry in 2015, including American oil companies being invited to develop oil fields in Iran. He's never going to get that deal now. And there's also worry about a land invasion of Iran, which military planners have warned against.
Trump is not a genius. What are you talking about? Trump is not a genius. People have to pay poll taxes now, have to pay a tax to use the Strait of Hormuz to get resources for their countries. What are you talking about that he's a genius? Lied about revealing the unredacted version of the Epstein files because he wants to protect pedophiles. What are you talking about? Why do people think he's smart? Is it because he says he's smart and they believe him? It's people who are poorly educated like him. See, the thing is like the only difference between these people, these Trump supporters and Trump, is that Trump has money. Trump has failed up all his life because he always had money to land on. He has never felt failure, true failure, that he has to dig himself out of. That's the thing. He is like these people. He is poorly educated. He's sneaky and crafty, but he's poorly educated. He's ignorant, but he can get by. He has trust fund money. That's probably it. Trump speaks at a fourth grade level intentionally because he wants poorly educated people to like him. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. They see themselves in him and they think he's on their side. When this man is making sure that you will be paying out of pocket for health insurance or you will drop dead. That's what's going to be. That's what's going to be. It's going to be it. You're going to be able, either you pay your full pocket for your medical insurance or you die. This is what Trump is leading you to. And they think because he hates black people, he hates women, he hates minorities, that they don't need him. But he's dragging you to the poorhouse. Rich white people hate poor white people. Rich white people hate poor white people. They don't like you. There's a term white trash for a reason. Why do you think all these people turned on Chud the Builder? These a lot of white racists turned on Chud the Builder because Chud the Builder is hurting their brand. These well-educated, rich white racists want people, they're trying to lie and gaslight the masses that racism doesn't exist. And here Trump is calling blacks the N-word, provoking them, trying to get them to attack him, has a gun while he's doing it, and he was on bond and he attacked a black person. On bond. Talks on Twitter. Talks about how he wants to kill black people. He's hurting gaslighting techniques. They don't like Chud because Chud represents who they are. Without their money or without their way of trying to gaslight the masses. They're trying to get people to think that racism doesn't exist, that you're just making it up. When Chud is showing racism is alive and well in this country. No, they understand what it was to vote for Trump. They understand. They didn't think it would hurt them. That's the problem. Who don't have their skin color, who don't have their beliefs. That's why they voted. Especially these ones who claim to be Christian. They wanted to take their Bible and push their own version on other people and basically be able to control women because most of these Trump supporters, white supremacists, don't have wives. So they want to find a way to try and control women, to get dates, to make them date them, take away their right to work so they have to depend on a man. That's what it is. They don't want to be chosen. They want them to depend them at a necessity. Not understanding that is the worst case scenario to be in. To have a woman who doesn't love you, but is just with you because they have a place to stay. They need food in their stomach. They don't have a means of fending for themselves. So they look to Trump as someone that could have multiple women, bully them, control them, even take them out and not get caught. As it is allegedly that his first wife's body is buried in the golf course. One of them, I think it was Ivana or Ivanka. Ivana, I think it was what it is. That's the power they want over women. But they don't have it because they're poor. They know what they did when they voted for Trump. It's just that it's affecting them, and now they want to cry.
For almost 50 years, Trump doesn't have the resources there. He doesn't have any allies on his side to do that.
People say racism isn't real while being racist. It's insane. Yeah, in that racism, you want to bring back racist policies. You want to gerrymander. You want to make sure that blacks don't have any voting blocks, any voting power. You want to make interracial marriage a thing of the past, which is in Project 2025. You don't get anywhere not talking about the problem. Stop racist division. Stop talking division. No. You broke your leg. Your leg doesn't get fixed by not talking about it and not acknowledging that you have a broken leg. That is just stupid. You get to the root of the problem and you fix it. Rummy 4513.
But we certainly may see additional of missiles, especially smart bombs and drones, against Iran. But Trump needs to find a way out of this because he's losing public support at a tremendous rate. He's only got a 32% approval rating in the latest survey, and on the war in Iran, his approval rating is 24%. So it's a 3-to-1 ratio of people who are opposed to what he's doing. And just yesterday in America, the Republicans suffered quite a setback where Donald Trump had put himself in the line. Voters in Virginia, right across the river from Washington, D.C., voted to redistrict in a way that will probably lead to 4 or 5 Republican Congress members not running again because they're not likely to be elected. An idea that Donald Trump started, let's redraw the districts in the middle of the decade. He doesn't have support.
No, he doesn't. And that's it. And everything suffering because you voted for Trump, you deserve. Your wife left you. You lost your farm. You lost your business. Unions are gone. That's on you. You thought with your 3 teeth in your mouth, barely making ends meet, multiple children, living off a WIC, living off on public assistance, thinking you're better than minorities, when you're dirt poor, barely shower, you thought that Trump was your standing approval. Single mom, barely finished high school. You thought MAGA was the way. When in every line, you know what's funny about you MAGAs? You don't look up things at all. It's like you're very allergic to information, especially when it comes to the term MAGA and what it means in foreign languages. Gullible, sucker, confused, witch. all of this, you can look this up. Google is free. I'd be hard pressed to want to be joining MAGA when you find out what it means in other languages.
Because it would damage his friends, the P3DO files. He didn't say that he didn't want them released because the allegations were false or because the evidence was fabricated or because transparency was wrong. He literally said it would hurt people he knows, the P3DO files. So let's stop pretending that this is complicated. The E-files are about allegations of abuse and trafficking of minors, am I right? So when he says that he's blocking release to protect his P3DO file friends, he's literally saying that he's protecting P3DO files from allegations of the crimes. That's it. That is the whole meaning of the sentence that he himself spoke. So you don't get to say that he shielded his friends and then rage when people say, so you shielded them because you're a P3DO file protector? I mean, that's not a smear. That's literally cause and effect. Trump wants sympathy for the consequences of his own framing, the words that he said. And here's the truth. If your first instinct in a case involving abused children is loyalty to your P3DO file friends instead of transparency, you don't get to control how history describes you. History doesn't care about intent. It cares about priorities. So Trump is furious because people are naming him exactly what he admitted he was.
Pretty much. This is a man who's talked about if Ivanka wasn't my daughter, Ivana or Ivanka, he would date her. He's coming down the escalator with his 10-year-old daughter at the time and says, in 10 years, I'm going to be dating her. It's also allegedly that he abused his daughter in the files. And many of you are just blind and just think he's the best thing ever. Like Melanie over here, 3051, Trump's the best. Believe the lies about what MAGA means. Lady, Google is free. Go look it up. The definition of MAGA in foreign languages. You're rooting for a man that said he would release the Epstein files unredacted. And then says, if I don't want to do it because my friends will be hurt. His friends are the pedophiles. He lied about being friends with Jeffrey Epstein. And he's been friends with him for 15 years. He's also been friends with John Casablancas, okay, who's also another pedophile. Ran a beauty pageant for underage girls. What is wrong with you, Melanie? That's the thing. What is wrong with you? All this information is free. Okay, he lost a lawsuit when he assaulting that a woman back in the day. I forgot her name. Okay. He also abused Katie Johnson. A lot of you, MAGA is just, it's really disturbing. Get mad that people say that you're in a cult. Yes, they are his friends. Most of the people that Trump hangs out with are pedophiles. I just told you about John Casablancas. Okay? Just told you about that. And then you got Nick Fuentes, right? Talking about the underage girl is okay to sleep with. When he talks about Jeffrey Epstein. Okay? And Nick Fuentes had a little bit of a scandal with Ari Alexander. You could look that up. Ari Alexander. You could look at the fact of how Nick Fuentes was having relations with Catboy, South African racist, who likes to make those symbols that that other child traffickers know about online.
Defense paid a woman $50,000 after she accused him of assaulting her. And people, whether or not he's capable. Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of Defense, paid a woman $50,000 after she accused him of assaulting her. And people are still questioning whether or not he's capable of targeting a girls' school to murder children 7 to 12 years old. People are still questioning whether or not he's being truthful and that maybe he just didn't care whether they hit a school or not. He tried to rename it the Department of War, which really at this point is nothing but a nickname that's costing the American taxpayer millions of dollars. Only Congress can rename a department. This man won't let any reporters into the Pentagon who take unflattering photos of him. But he let Matt Gaetz in, another man who's been accused of violating children connected to this administration. He won't let reporters come in that ask him.
You know what's funny about Trump is the fact that he wouldn't let Byron Donalds into his administration to be part of his cabinet because he said Byron Donalds had a past, he was a drug dealer, and stuff like that. But you know who Trump wanted to be in his cabinet? He wanted Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz, known for sleeping with underage girls, known for taking his phone and showing pictures of these underage girls to his fellow workers. Matt Gaetz. That's who Trump wanted in his administration, but he couldn't because of Matt Gaetz' history. Byron Donalds, a black man, administration. Isn't that fascinating to you in MAGA who are black? Isn't that something? You can do all that bowing down and worshiping the golden yellow calf face of Trump. But he will not let you into his kingdom of fascism. Okay? He only wants people who are just as dirty as him. And maybe that's a blessing in disguise for Mr. Byron Donalds. That's what it is.
Any questions that he doesn't want to answer, that report on anything that might seem unfavorable. I'm going to give you a tip here. Everything about a war is unfavorable. Pete Hegseth cannot be trusted, and he's proven that over and over again. This administration will continue to lie to us about what's going on with this war because they don't care that service members have lost their lives, that children have lost their father and women have lost their husbands. They only care about themselves and how they look.
Pretty much. Pete Hegseth reminds me of Homelander. How many of you think Pete Hegseth reminds you of Homelander? Put a one in the chat. I think so. I do.
While awaiting trial, no other high-profile people are going to be charged in connection with any of Epstein's crimes, and no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. And that's the end of it. That's the final word in this memo from the Trump administration's Department of Justice and FBI, which was just released yesterday. Oh, and they also released this footage of the outside of Epstein's jail cell, but instead of along with video of after he was locked in about 10:40 p.m. on August 9th of 2019. This memo says the Trump administration has conducted an exhaustive review of the investigative holdings related to Jeffrey Epstein. They have found the same thing in New York and the Biden administration found back in 2023. Nothing to see here. And the Trump DOJ and FBI said, consistent with prior disclosures, Epstein harmed more than 1,000 victims. The only documents that have not been disclosed to the public are being withheld to protect the victims. The FBI says those documents did not expose any additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. The FBI memo goes on to say the systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. So if that
I still think he's alive. I think Jeffrey Epstein's alive. I really do.
I know there's people that will hear what he had to say and they'll hear what I'm about to say and they'll say, oh, well, there's two radical left lunatics who ain't proud of this country. You're damn right. I'm not proud of the things that Donald Trump is doing at this particular moment. I'm not proud of the way that he carries himself on the world stage. I'm not proud of the useless wars that he started. I'm not proud of the fact that he has took rights away from women. I'm not proud of the fact that he's gutted the Voting Rights Act. I'm not proud of the fact that we watched Americans die in the streets and be executed. I'm not proud of the boat strikes that happened. I'm not proud of the school in Iran that was attacked. There's so much that I can sit here and go on and on about it. And I know if I start trying to tell,
It's funny, man. Is they're so proud of this, but when it comes to dating and they get rejected, they start crying. You can just take an opinion anymore. No one can handle a difference of opinion anymore. No, you took away the rights of a woman. Okay, God forbid she has to do a topic pregnancy. She has to deal with that. Or she was assaulted, or she was molested. You know, let's say, God forbid, her child was molested, and the kid's pregnant, and she needs to have an abortion. She can't get it due to Trump's policies. And you come around, and you're a Trump supporter, and you expect her to accept your vote and the fate that you put on her daughter with your vote. A lot of you like to gaslight and are just so lacking of empathy and psychotic that you think that these women are entitled. You're entitled to these women's bodies. That's the crazy thing. And you can't take rejection. You can't just a woman that believes in MAGA just like you. The hilarious thing, you swear you guys are about family, you are about quote unquote God and family, but you're looking for liberal women to sleep with. Because deep down, you want the liberal woman who's going to be doing all the nasty stuff that you want to be done to you in bed. But you're MAGA. You don't believe in that stuff. That's the funny thing. You guys voted because you want the right to oppress. You're okay with everything that Trump was going to survive. Okay? Because you want to control women. That's what you want. And you're crying that women are not going to put up with that. That's your problem. You're not strong men. You're incels that can't take rejection, that can't take the consequences of your own stupid actions when it comes to the opposite sex. That's the issue here. This is why you're on the red pill. This is why you want to listen to Fresh and Fit. You listen to a man that's not into women. You listen to who's not into women, who wants to talk about the issues of heterosexual men. That in and of itself, I have to question your sanity, possibly your sexuality. Because if you want to learn about women, you would listen to a man who gets a lot of women. It's common sense. You want to learn how to play basketball, you would try to get taught by a guy who is on the court a lot and plays basketball good. Not letting the far right podcasters who are terrible with women. And you let them influence you to vote for a man that is against women's rights, but you want to date women. How does that make sense? Affect other people, but a lot of these men are probably getting it that they basically killed their chances in the dating market voting for this man. And then want to cry victim. It's pathetic.
all the things Donald Trump did, but I'm not proud of any of those things. Those are nothing to stand up and thump your chest about. And if you're standing up, thumping your chest and proud of what Donald Trump accomplished, I mean, you have to be a white supremacist at this point. There's no way that I can sit here and go, well, this is just a difference of politics. You know, some people likes Kamala, some people likes Trump. It's not. We passed that a long, long time ago, really, when Donald Trump came down the escalator and completely shattered America.
Pretty much. Let's talk about how the data center the Black community and every community.
Found outside your home nonstop for the past 4 years. For residents along Louise Avenue in Dowagiac, Michigan, that idea is very reality, and homeowners fear the sound could be negatively impacting their health. 2 people living on the street have filed a lawsuit. They allege the noise is created by cooling systems inside expand the data center's capacity from 30 megawatts to 340 megawatts.
We don't go outside a lot anymore. We can't sit on our porch anymore. A lot of people don't want to come over and visit with us outside.
Hyperscale Data hasn't responded to any of my requests for comment via phone or email over the past 3 months. And when I tried to speak to someone else,
not to mention, these data centers aren't providing jobs for people. They just plant them there in the community, just suck up the water, and you're not giving people jobs. It's wild. And then they got the nerve to be mad when people want to drive out these data centers out of their communities.
the property, I was repeatedly told I had to leave.
I had a question. Oh, okay. Is there a good way to get in touch with the company?
Okay. The noise started in 2022 when Bitcoin mining operations started at the facility. Billy has been recording decibel measurements, and he's noticed the readings start to increase in the last couple years. Some days the readings are as high as 78 decibels. Most days they're around 60 decibels, and in the past they were around 52 decibels. From Bronson Healthcare, and she said anything below 80 decibels wouldn't cause any physical damage to your ear, but exposure to a constant unnatural sound like that coming from the data center could lead to increased stress and negative impacts on your overall health and well-being.
They don't care, and they don't care. See what's going on in Australia with these data centers.
Online. They process our Uber Eats orders, stream our movies, action our data center, which your digital activities have. Data centers power everything we do online. They process our Uber Eats orders, stream our movies, action our eBay transactions, match us on Bumble, and get our Instagram selfies. They have done for years. So why are they so controversial now?
There's a proposal to turn this business park into a data centre and residents are not pleased.
Noise, visual impact and environmental impact.
The new generation of data centres are being supercharged. They're now dealing with the increasing number of questions we're asking artificial intelligence chatbots. That takes a lot of processing power. And they're dealing with training AI models, a process that involves massive amounts of data. So the implications of AI in and of itself is one thing, but people are now also worried about these vast nuts and bolts facilities behind it. And communities around especially anxious about the amount of electricity
silence from the media, silence from the neighborhoods that they target. These facilities pull massive amounts of electricity. They really don't want you to know between AI energy and black neighborhoods, because AI data centers don't just threaten our water, they threaten our energy too. And guess which communities get hit the hardest? Ours. AI data centers need three things: water, electricity, and silence. Silence from the people, silence from the media, silence from the neighborhoods that they target. These facilities pull massive amounts of electricity, sometimes more than a sports stadium, more than a hospital, or even the whole entire zip code.
When the grid gets stressed, guess who gets the blackouts first? Not the suburbs, not the wealthy neighborhoods, not the community with the political connections. It's the same communities that already deal with the rolling outages, old infrastructure, and energy bills that keep climbing while the service keeps falling. Here's the hidden connection. Data centers overload local power grids. When demand spikes, the utility companies shift the pressure onto us. They raise our rates, they ration the energy, and they shut down our blocks first. Black neighborhoods are often sacrifice zones, areas with less resistance, areas where politicians assume people won't push back, areas already fighting lead, pollution, and old wire. New power plants get built near the same neighborhoods, and that means
Always been that way. They dump drugs into the urban communities. They dump waste into the urban black communities. And it's time for black people to fight back. Chuck that stuff back. Make sure you shut down these data centers. Okay? Because with Trump in office, it's basically that white supremacy is showing its teeth. And blacks can't be taking this beaten down no more. Being beat down no more. It's time to stand up and fight. Because they're trying to kill black people in these urban black communities. And I can only imagine the horrors when the power grid goes out.
means more pollution, more asthma, more long-term health problems. Also, big tech can keep training AI models to sell ads, push products, and automate industries we work in. This is why understanding economics is not optional anymore. This is why ownership matters. This is why being informed is power. AI is changing the world, but if we're not vigilant, it will change our neighborhoods the most and not for the better. But we're not powerless. When we know the game, we can protect our communities. When we speak up, things change. And when we build together, nothing can stop us.
Black community fights against a data center.
For environmental justice. First against hog farmers. Hey y'all, this is George Cook at African American Voice. And this lady right here is Belinda Joyner. She's a resident of Kingsborough, a predominantly black town in North Carolina.
Fair use.
And for decades, she's been fighting for environmental justice. First against hog farmers, and now against, hey y'all, this is George Cook at African American Voice. And this lady right here is Belinda Joyner. She's a resident of Kingsborough, a predominantly black town in North Carolina. And for decades, she's been fighting for environmental justice. First against hog farmers, and now against AI data centers. Please check out our story, it's important.
Just to sit out on your porch and just enjoy your environment. You can't move because if something was to come right here across the street, where I go and I've been here all my life. So why should I have to get up and move because something comes in my community that's going to disturb my livelihood? It's like they're living off us, they're profiting off us, and we're the ones that are suffering. The pig farms have been here forever. You know, everywhere you go, there's a hog farm somewhere. And I'll take Duplin County, for instance. They have more of the hogs than they have people. You see all those hogs in there together. You know, when the feces, you know, they walking in it, they stepping in it, you know. When you're talking about the odor from the lagoons, can you imagine trying to have a cookout and the odor, the wind is blowing like today and it's coming your way? Some people like to hang their clothes on the line. Why would you hang your clothes on the line when you take them in? You're going to have to wash them all over again. Well, environmental justice is supposed to be fair to everybody. No matter what race, creed, color, whatever your situation be, that's what environmental justice is supposed to be. But then we have a lot of environmental injustice. Where we're in right now, we live in a community where it's predominantly black. I tell them if you can head off something before it starts, you have a possibility of stopping it. But if you don't, once it ever gets started, it's hard to stop it. And 9 times out of 10, you won't stop it. As John Lewis said, making good trouble, that helps a whole lot.
For
tech companies are doing exactly the same thing, but masking it as innovation for their good. With over 3,000 data centers operating in America and 1,000 more in the pipeline, specific communities are feeling the impact first. There's no escaping AI, but both sides of the aisle are pushing back on the rise of pop-up data centers. The demand for unreasonable amounts of water, power, and land is a smack in the face of places like Flint, Michigan, where in 2026, residents still worry if their water is safe to drink. In 2025, the Trump administration issued an executive order fast-tracking data center construction, stripping environmental reviews for any project over 100 megawatts. This order bypasses regulatory hurdles like NEPA, proving that when trillions are on the line, these companies aren't asking for permission, they're buying it.
Mark Zuckerberg couldn't believe it. He said, where are we going to get all the electricity? Because you need double the electricity that the country currently makes just to fire up those big plants. I said, well, nobody can do that. So what we're going to do is let you make your own electricity. Nobody believed it. And I said, we're going to get you fast permits. So we get it within 2 weeks.
How did we get here? How are we okay with water scarcity and pollution for tax-paying humans while granting unlimited resources to corporations? The answer is corporate greed, classism, and most of all, environmental racism. After slavery ended, Black Americans built towns, businesses, and entire economies from nothing. White America, backed by government policy, systematically dismantled them, not through violence alone, but through zoning. Redlining didn't just deny mortgages, it funneled Black families into the most desirable land near factories, rail yards, and waste sites. Once concentrated there, these neighborhoods became the path of least resistance for any corporation needing a place to put its pollution. By 1987, a landmark report confirmed that race, not income or property value, was the single strongest predictor of toxic facilities were placed. They named it environmental racism. The consequences? Almost none. Shocker. Fines were just the cost of doing business, and permits were rubber stamped by the same agencies. Black, founded by formerly enslaved people. The city operates with methane gas turbines that pump nitrogen oxides and formaldehyde into a community
Elon Musk, the Nazi.
already suffering from the highest asthma rates in the state. Nitrogen dioxide levels jumped by nearly 80% after XAI moved in. Meanwhile, Elon Musk is worth over $300 billion and not fixing the issue. Across the South in Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, and Virginia, over $200 billion in planned data infrastructure is landing in sacrifice zones. They always promise jobs, but those jobs go to imported tech workers. The community gets dirtier air, higher utility bills, and depleted water. And a few people may get offered facilities manager position, but 10 people becoming janitors isn't offsetting the damage done to the community as a whole. In South Carolina, data centers are projected to drive 70% of the state's increased energy demand, raising costs for residents who were already energy insecure. But the easy targets are running out, and now affluent communities are feeling the heat. In Lyon Township, Michigan, a predominantly white affluent suburb, a developer quietly got approval in 2025 for a 1.8 million square foot hyperscale data center for Anthropic, the company that makes Claude. When residents found out, they packed board meetings. They formed No Data Center Lyon Township Group.
Isn't it funny? When it comes to the black community, everybody just doesn't pay attention. When it comes to the white community, everybody wants to pay attention now. It's always how it is. White people get the sniffles, black people get the flu. Whenever it's white people get the sniffles, white people get the flu, then you have problems. Then they start to pay attention. Just like to say no to drugs, right? Black people dealing with a drug problem in the urban black community, just say no to drugs. When drugs end up in the white people community, oh, now we got to come together. We got to come together and we got to handle this problem.
Raising concerns about noise, water, and property values. They are now attempting to township. In nearby Saline Township, residents actually center down, only for a developer to file a lawsuit 2 days later. In this economy, no doesn't mean no when big tech is projected to spend over $600 billion on AI infrastructure in 2026 alone. This is what unchecked corporate power looks like. It starts with the communities that have the least, the test cases where corporations learn what they can get away with. Once the legal precedents are set and the guardrails are gone, they scale up. Suddenly, it's not just Boxtown, it's Lyon Township. It's your town, your water, and your utility bill.
That's how it is. And this is how racism hurts everyone. Because they designated a class of people that they don't think are human. Okay? So they can get away with that. And then they start creeping up to get away with doing things to other ethnic groups. But a lot of white supremacists are too stupid to understand that. Especially MAGA.
like tiny little size of that. You're not going to put a school in an old data center. Like, these data centers are enormous. And so there's a very real problem here of what happens when this economy comes crashing down to these facilities.
That's a great point. We should add that to John's list. That should be an additional provision, which is that if your data center doesn't become operational or goes out of business, becomes vacant, that you're on the hook for the
performance bond.
Yeah, exactly. A performance bond for the remediation of that site. Or maybe we just need to bring back the public square where they used to put people in that thing. We could put Elon Musk in that thing, the stocks, yeah.
I think I prefer a performance bond.
Pretty much. That's how it is. All right. I'm done for now. Thank you guys for coming in. See you on the next one. Cheers. Okay. Let's go. All right.